All right, so we are here on the Austin Kelly Show. But we have an amazing guest, Cynthia Sassi, the one and only. I'm going to read something real quick. So instead of asking you, what is Fabulous Arizona, I'm just going to read it off
Well,
and
thanks.
let people know already what Fabulous Arizona is. You are the founder of Fabulous Arizona. But I'm going to read more about it right now. FabulousArizona.com is one of Arizona's premier online lifestyle publications, founded in 2011 by yours truly. The locally owned website has become the go-to for travelers wishing to visit or locals yearning to learn more about where to eat, stay, play, and give back to the 48th state. From restaurants, resorts, and events to unique and successful individuals, the publication is devoted to showcasing all that makes Arizona exceptional. That's you.
That's
That
it.
is you. And you have more locations too. You do Iowa, Nevada, Wisconsin. First and foremost, what drove you to do all this? What drove you to do this?
I'm going to date myself, but back in 2007, I got an internship with a online magazine, and I was going to school for marketing. Took the internship thinking this is just going to be for class credit, and I also made a couple bucks too, so I was like, cool, make some money, get my class credit.
Yeah.
I'm out. And it was my last semester at ASU, and it was an online magazine, and I fell in love with online publishing. I am big on the consumer behavior aspect of marketing, and what's great about digital is you have all the data, so you know what articles people are reading, what ads they're clicking on, things that you can't necessarily know from like a print magazine, for example. So I was like, this is really cool. I like this a lot. And that kind of set the trajectory for my career. So I've been doing the online publishing thing for a long time. But after that, I went to a local magazine, kind of helped them start making that transition into the digital world. And I fell in love with the local scene, like the local business owners. It's so different working with local businesses as opposed to national companies,
Right.
obviously. National companies, you're working with some account executive and an ad firm, and, you don't really get to know the people at the business.
Yeah.
Whereas locally, you're meeting typically the business owners, hearing their stories.
It's more personal,
they're
right?
they're very passionate about what
Yeah.
they're doing. So it's more rewarding, I feel, to work on the local level. And so that's kind of what birthed Fabulous Arizona. Was I wanted to combine these, skills that I learned on the national level, but applied on a local level with these, local businesses that I was so passionate about.
Yeah. So you focus on everything though, like
We're
everything
lifestyle,
locally.
yeah. So we do, pretty much everything. I mean, fashion events,
Restaurants,
resorts,
Yeah.
spas.
Why everything?
Because I was just like, there's just so much,
Yeah.
going on. And it's, I didn't want to pigeonhole us in, because when I started Fabulous Arizona, I had grander plans for it. So, so I just didn't want to pigeonhole myself into one spot or one state or one city or anything like that. Like, I just wanted to make sure that there was room to grow it into whatever it ended up being. And I didn't necessarily know what that was going to be at the time. Sometimes you just have to start and figure it out.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure I didn't, pigeonhole myself into like something too small that couldn't grow.
Yeah. And you just expand. You wanted to expand, like.
Yes, but it took a
lot.
very long time. It was almost a decade before I launched a second state, and I just kept wondering, what does that look like? I don't know how that would work. I was, scared, obviously, like a lot of people are when they're, starting a business or growing a business. And I just wondered, would this concept work in another state, or did it work here just because of the connections I had? Or did
Yeah.
the concept actually, is it a good concept that's going to do well in other places?
Yeah. Were you strictly at first just wanting to do just local here in Arizona, or was your idea all along to expand?
All along, I knew I wanted it to be something more. I
More.
just didn't know what that looked like. I didn't
Right.
know if it was going to be cities. I didn't know if it was going to be states. I didn't know if it was going to be licensing, franchising, owning it. I didn't know. I just
Yeah.
knew like I wanted to have that option out there. And so that's kind of why the Fabulous Arizona brand like that, I was like, well, then I can do Fabulous whatever it's a city, a state, whatever. So I decided to do Wisconsin second. And I think that was 2018. And I was just like, I'm from Wisconsin, because everyone's like, why Wisconsin?
You're a
It's so-
cheesehead. Cheesehead.
Yes, but it's so far from here. So people were like, that's
Yeah.
kind of a weird second state to do, because it's, across the country. But I'm from there. So I was like, cool.
There's usually not a lot going on in Wisconsin either, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's the Midwest. But what's been really cool, though, is that you can find there's something so unique and fabulous about every state that we've done that once you really get into it and get to know the states better, it's like every place has its little gems. And so that's been what's been kind of fun about it, is finding those things and highlighting those things. But yeah, so I was scared to start it, and I sat on the domain, the Fabulous Wisconsin domain, for like a year before I actually did anything with it, because I just didn't know like what steps to take next. And one of my friends who's a business coach, she was like, just go do it. And if it fails, then so what? Then you just focus back on just Arizona. And so I was like, all right. So I packed up my dogs in my car and drove to Wisconsin for a month and stayed with one of my cousins, and was just like, let's see if this works. And I was able to say, present it to people and say, hey, this is Fabulous Arizona. This is what we're trying to do for Wisconsin. Would you be interested in, being involved, whether it was restaurants, resorts, that sort of thing. Within the first week of me being up there, I had businesses reaching out wanting to work with me. I had writers reaching out wanting to be a part of the team. Like, it happened so fast. I was like, wow, this is actually something people are excited about. And it was cool to have the, Fabulous Arizona as the prototype and to say, this is what we're trying to do.
Because you've already grown it so much.
Yeah.
Before.
So it was great to be able to use that as the template. And and so people were so excited about it, and it took off really fast in Wisconsin. And within a month after that, 2 people had reached out to me in 2 different cities that didn't know each other in Iowa. And were like, we saw you launch Fabulous Wisconsin. Can you launch Fabulous Iowa? We need something like that here. So that's kind of how it started. And then now we've got Nevada and California, which obviously Arizona, Nevada, and California are like feeder markets to each other. Makes a lot of sense. And then we've got Wisconsin. I was going to do Oregon because obviously like Portland and Seattle are really close. So I was like, those would be easy.
Yeah.
But Portland through COVID had a lot of economic issues.
Oh yeah.
So we were kind of like, all right, let's pause on Oregon. So we might revisit that soon. But ideally we'd like to kind of, have the states touching and that might expand a little more in the Midwest next. So
how hands-on are you with the Fabulous?
Very, yeah. We've got quite a team now. It was just me for a really long time. I side hustled it until 2015 with a full-time job. Then it kind of got to a point that it was like, okay, it's getting a little more challenging to side hustle this and work a full-time job. They were starting to, there were starting to be conflicts time-wise. There just wasn't enough hours in the day. And so,
find, like,
and
a right balance.
Yeah. And my employer was starting to be like, okay, we know you have this thing on the side, but it's starting to get like really time consuming. So I had to, finally say, okay, I don't feel fully ready to go full time, but we just got to take the leap, because until I can spend full time on it, it probably won't be a full time thing. So I had to just take that leap. And that was October 2015, I believe. Wild. It's been that long. And
that's 8 years, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I didn't hire, I had a few contributors here and there, but I didn't really hire anybody until 2020. Oh, so yeah.
So you were doing it all alone till 2020.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah. So what's great is I got a fantastic editor-in-chief, Melissa, on board in 2020. It just was perfect timing. She was leaving somewhere else, and her and I had worked together previously, in 2008. And she's amazing, very well known in town, already has all the connections. And I kind of told her what my vision was and what I was trying to do. And she was like,
someone you trusted already, which is great.
Which, when it's your baby and you've been doing it by yourself for so long, it's hard to find somebody that you feel comfortable with, giving the reins to. So she oversees all of the content in all 6 states. She manages all of the contributors for all the different states, all the writers. So she's been just an absolute godsend. She's amazing. But I'm still very involved in everything.
Would you say 90%, 99%?
Well, I may not physically, I don't physically do, 90% of the work anymore, but my eyes are on almost everything still.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you make the decisions, the final decisions.
Yeah.
On, how does one advertise with you guys?
Yeah. So I manage most of the sales and the advertising at this point. One, I just feel like, when it's your own brand, no one can sell it as well as you. Right.
Right.
And obviously I have a lot of great connections and so much experience in selling this type of content. I've monetizing content is what I was trained in, in these previous businesses. And so that's kind of, the thing that I'm really good at. And so I've hired somebody that helps me manage those campaigns, but I'm still the person that's I'm the one closing the deals. And so, so people sometimes reach out on Instagram. Sometimes they are, emailing me. It's through a connection, something like that.
Yeah.
Most of our advertisers, they come to us. It's not too often that, we're necessarily out, cold calling.
Yeah.
Mostly because it's just me.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's different now compared to when you first started.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because of social media and everything. Yeah.
It changes so much.
Yeah.
Our packages, our advertising options are changing almost every 6 months, just because things are always changing and you have to keep up and keep adapting. And, we're at a point that, we're a magazine, even though we're all digital, we're media. And so, we're kind of in that category of magazines, TV, print, that sort of thing. However, we are competing with influencers now, which really changes the landscape.
Yeah.
And there's just certain things that we can't do like an influencer does. But so it's like we kind of have to have those conversations with the advertisers about expectations of like, they think because we're digital that we're like an influencer, and it's like we don't have that. It's just a different type of content.
Well, I'm sure now it's been, would you say, a little easier, considering back when you first started, there was no TikTok, there was no Instagram. Like, do you think it's easier now with these platforms to advertise more?
I think it's more difficult for someone like myself because...
Oh, it's more difficult.
Yeah,
Okay.
because before the only places to advertise were the magazines, the television, the newspaper.
Yeah.
Now they could go buy ads on social media themselves. Or they could go
Gotcha.
work with an influencer,
Right.
or, so there's more options for them to put their money in other places. So we have to really, get even more creative and really set ourselves apart of like, how can we offer more? Because if we're like, hey, we're going to throw a social post up, they're like, okay, well, I could also go spend that money on running an ad on Instagram. How is it different? Because they
I
can
see,
target
yeah. Okay.
the same audience, right?
Yeah, I see now.
So it's really about what can we bring to the table that's different. Of course, we have a great loyal following, and having, us saying something about a business is different than them saying it. But the reality is that you really have to get creative. And that's,
does that drive you? Like just being creative, more creative and more...
Yeah. And I think I enjoy finding ways to like, how do we, like, that's probably one of my strong suits is why I like being on the sales side is because I'm able to sit and say, okay, what are their goals and what are they trying to accomplish? And how can we best relay that? Because again, I'm not a writer by trade. So that's why it's like so great that I have like the writing team so that I don't have to do like articles and stuff like that anymore. But when it comes to like the marketing side, that's obviously like my background. That's what I love. And so, finding ways when I talk to a business, okay, we're trying to promote X, Y, and Z. This is our budget. This is, who our audience is. And then me figuring out like, okay, what does a campaign look like that can convey that message best, that's going to speak to those people, and what mediums make the most sense, because we've got articles on the website, we've got banner ads, we've got social posts, we've got a newsletter, what makes the most sense for what they're trying to do. So we kind of don't have like a one size fits all, package. It's really customized to like what is going to perform best for them. And when you're playing the long game in this business, you don't want to just sell something to make a buck and then it doesn't have a return. And
Exactly.
then
You want to see a return.
Yeah, you want to see the returns so that they want to keep working with you. And then also you can then use that as an example to sell other businesses to work with you. So so it's really important to us to make sure that like what we're putting together for their campaigns is something that's going to work.
Let's talk about when around the time you were getting this going, I remember you said you had to like go to a lot of events to like get people to know about what you do. How hard was that for you to do that? Were you always a people person? Did you always have to, talk to a lot of people, collaborate with people? Like, how was that?
So I'm like an introverted extrovert. Is that what they call it?
I feel like I am.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm now like very comfortable with, I joke that I could talk to a tree now, but I have had to work very hard to get to that point. So this was back in like probably like 2011 when I first started the business, and I was like, okay, if I want this to be something, I don't have any budget to advertise it. So how am I going to get the word out? Okay, I'm just going to go to every event in town, meet people, make sure they know who I am, hand out my business cards. I would literally be sick to my stomach driving to these events. Like, I was so nervous.
Were you overthinking too?
Yeah. And the reality was, is no one knew who I was.
Right.
So it's like to go up to these people and just have to cold introduce myself to people. A lot of times I was going to these events by myself and, would just have to walk in a room with a bunch of people I don't know and just start talking and introducing myself. So there were times that I'd be just literally sick to my stomach going and would want to like go home and turn around. So so a lot of times people tell me, they're like, oh, well, I can never do what you do, Cynthia, because I'm too shy, or I'm not, outgoing enough. And I'm like, I was not that outgoing. I forced myself to be because it's something that I really wanted. So I knew that if I wanted this, and I like to go back to that idea of, why can't that be me? Because people are always like, well, I'm just a shy person. I couldn't do that. And it's like, but you could. Like, why couldn't you be that person? And so, so I like to think that you can be whatever it is that you need to be if you want it.
You grew out of your shell in a sense, right? Yeah. It forced you, and I'm sure you learned a lot just with social skills doing that.
Yes.
Yeah. You learned how to talk to people, how to like advertise, market. You learned a lot doing that. Yeah. What have you learned since when you first started to now?
Oh my gosh, so much.
Yeah. Because there's been a lot going on. Yeah. So like what are the main things? What are the main things that you've learned during this process?
Well, I mean, and I kind of always knew this, but like obviously relationships are everything. So I'll see that come back time and time again of, people that I've met over 10 years ago that I still work with today, or maybe when I met them, they were in a different industry or doing something different that, at the time, maybe we didn't work together, but then they come back around at some point and are like, hey, I just started this business or I'm doing this and, would love to connect and see how we can work together. So the relationship building's huge. Being a giving person and, building those relationships in a way that like, maybe they don't have anything to offer you at the time, but by you doing something for them, it could pay off later. It's just like being that person that's connecting, networking, helping in the community, that sort of thing. That stuff, pays off again. I play everything long game. Yeah. So when you're playing short term, it's a bit different mentality, a different, game there. But everything that I do is, longevity. How can I, build the best reputation, the best relationships? Same thing with, why it's so important to me to give value to everybody that I work with, because, I always call it the smallest big city, is everybody knows everybody around here. So
and here in Arizona,
yeah. So it's like if if you're not delivering value and you're taking people's money, that's going to get around. Word's going to get around about that. And vice versa. If you're providing a lot of value, people are going to be talking about it, and that's why we have a lot of people that are coming to us to work with us, and we don't necessarily even have to go out and seek people because we've built that great reputation over the last decade plus. So
that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing that you've taken what you have learned from when you first started to now, and like you keep growing and growing and growing. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Honestly, there is an exit plan.
There is an exit plan. Okay.
Yeah. So selling the company is a goal. That was kind of always the plan when I started it over a decade ago.
Yeah.
So just building it to a point that, proving profitability, showing that it's, valuable enough. I own all states. So I own the domains for all the states.
Awesome.
So that, if I do sell it at some point, it's a whole package of here's everything. So it's really kind of proving the concept, getting the processes in place, all of that kind of thing. It's, not having had investment or backing or funding. It's been, very shoestring, budget type of thing for a lot of sweat equity over the last 10 years to get it to where it's at.
Yeah.
But since we've started building the team 3 years ago, it's really grown quite quickly. And it's, just
very quickly.
Yeah. So seeing the growth in the last few years, it's really exciting.
What can you say about that? Like, how do you feel about that? Seeing the growth come that quickly?
It's that overnight,
Well, it's not overnight, but like in the last 3 years.
But it's like that saying though, that it's like, it took 10 years to get to this overnight success or whatever, you know what I mean? So there's just so much that I put in leading up to that, that finally, you get over that hump. So it makes it like, oh, I'm so glad I, stuck it out, didn't give up, and kept believing in it. Especially when I went full-time self-employed in 2015 and people were like, you're crazy. Like, you're not gonna be able to make enough money doing this. So to now have a team in multiple states and, to have built this into something that's, something more is really exciting and rewarding.
So you say you plan on selling it at some point. Mm-hmm. What are your plans after you sell it?
I'm kind of figuring that out. I really I'm looking more now towards like, what are things that I am really passionate about? I mean, I am passionate about the magazines and the publishing and all of that. But everything that when I come back to like, what's the core thing of everything that I do? And it's helping people. And so I know that that's the big thing that I really enjoy doing is helping people. And so
that's awesome.
I could see moving into more of a consulting type role, consulting, speaking, that sort of thing, where it's, I can help people from everything that I've learned over, my career, being able to give that back to someone else, I think would be really rewarding and probably the direction I'd want to go next.
Have you always had that entrepreneurial mindset?
I have.
Like ever since, school, growing up, you've always had that?
Yep.
Yeah.
In high school, I worked at a Dairy Queen and I thought I was going to own a Dairy Queen one day.
Hey, nothing wrong with Dairy Queen.
Yeah. And I'm actually still very, very good friends with the owner of the Dairy Queen that I worked at in high school.
Their Oreo cake is so good.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, I used to live on Oreo and Reese's Blizzards and chicken strips. Can't eat any of those things now, but I'm just like, I can't believe I used to live off of that.
Damn.
But yeah, but I was like a shift manager at 17 and was like looking at the P&Ls and looking at what different things cost in this, when we would get our deliveries. And I was like, oh, these Sunday lids are more expensive than the Blizzard lids. And so if one of the employees was trying to put a Sunday lid on a Blizzard, I was like, no. Like those are so much more expensive. You can't do that. So that's kind of when the light bulb went off of like, okay, I kind of naturally have this, mind of thinking about things, because I remember my coworkers were like, why do you care? Like, you don't own this place. Like,
it was already embedded.
What do you care if this lid's 15 cents more or whatever? Yeah. So, and it's just, that's kind of the way my brain was already working. And so, so I think I was just kind of programmed to be, I had to be an entrepreneur at some point. Even when I was like, I had a couple corporate jobs and I never lasted more than 3 to 6 months, maybe at any corporate job I ever had. I always thrived in like startups because I was allowed to like work on a bunch of different things and be involved in everything. And, kind of got to, have a little more say in things that were going on. And when I worked at corporate companies, I was very siloed, and I would be like, oh, I have an idea about this thing over here. And they're like, that's not your department. Like, you go over here.
You were limited. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was just like, this is not for me. So, yeah, I just knew it was kind of in my blood.
Being an entrepreneur, your mind's always running, right? You're always thinking of the next step, long term. Do you ever rest? Do you have free time? Do you ever rest?
Yeah, I've built that. I've prioritized that much more recently.
Yeah.
I was one person that was like really, really loved COVID. Obviously it was a horrible thing. But I loved that. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited that I don't have to go anywhere. Like, I was like, cause it was just go all the time. And so,
well, and you're an introverted extrovert.
Yeah. And also now I don't have to go to all these meetings in person. Now the norm is doing a call instead of like, it's built more time into my life, which is great, because instead of me going and driving to, meet somebody in person, and then what could have been a 20-minute phone call ends up being an hour-long meeting, those kinds of things. Cause you got to do all the pleasantries in person and all of that.
Yeah.
So I have, because of that, I, have been able to build more time into that. But, back when I first started my business, I would run on 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. I was just constantly running myself into the ground. I now very much prioritize sleep. I get 7-8 hours a night. The second that I see, because I track my sleep, and the second that I see it start slipping below 7 hours, I can feel it. And it just really affects like my productivity. And what I've realized, and I would like to, big piece of advice I would like to give to people starting out, is you think you're giving yourself more hours in the day by cutting your sleep like that. But the reality is that you're not as productive in the hours you're awake because you're not well rested enough. So that's something that it took me too long to learn. Even in high school, I burned the candle at both ends of the stick. And so I was the same, I'd been like that for a very long time, and it was a hard habit for me to get out of, to realize sleep's important, and I'm going to be a better person and more productive if I actually take that extra couple hours to sleep.
Not only sleep is important, because it is, but I feel like waking up early is important, being a morning person.
Yep.
Because I feel like if you're sleeping until 9, 10, 11, that's already half your day gone. And
I know everyone functions a little differently. So, I mean, I am inherently a morning person. It's just who I am. I love getting up early. I love mornings. I know some people, I don't want to say that you have to be a morning person, because I know that some people, they just operate better at different times of the day.
Yeah.
But me personally, I am so productive in the morning. So like getting up early is really good for
when
me.
I wake up, I had to like do something. Like I had to be on the go and do something. I can't start off my morning already dragging. And I actually kind of want to touch base on something that I saw. I think you had this past interview on a podcast maybe a couple of years ago, I want to say. And you said in this interview where you wake up and you're excited for the day, and you're excited to go. And do you think that comes with not only entrepreneurship, but because of that, it's something new every day? You get to do what you love. Like, do you think that ties into that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if you're getting up dreading the day, like, one, it's gonna be harder to get out of the bed and be a morning person, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just like, oh, I don't want to get up and do this.
Yeah.
So, having something that, the first thing you do in the morning is something you're excited about, I think is important. But yeah, of course, being an entrepreneur, I love what I do. I hope if you're an entrepreneur, you love what you do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you might want to, consider a career change. But same thing with when I had jobs, though. I was the same way, like when I was at those corporate businesses, and I'd wake up dreading going into the office, or dreading, that day. And I was like, we have limited time on this earth. Like, why should we be wishing days away? Like, that's just a horrible way to live. And so I know that not everyone has the luxury of, choosing what they do for work. But I do feel like, you have to find ways to be excited and for days and not be wishing them away or wishing for the weekend. Every day should be a blessing, and you should be excited about.
And that's what I always thought too. When I had, normal jobs, I guess, like working at a deli when I first started working at a young age of 18, and then moving forward to just like other normal jobs, I always dreaded going in there, because it's like, I don't want to do this. I know this is not what I want to do. I don't want to do this long term. I'm just doing this to like save money and do what I really want to do. But I feel like a lot of people with 9-to-5s, right? Like, I feel like a lot of the times they wake up and they're dreading the day. Like what you said, they live for the weekend. And then when Monday comes, it's like, I don't want to wake up and go to work. But I feel like that's different if you already love what you do.
Right.
Well, and then I don't want to like, if you work a 9-to-5 and you're happy with it, that's really awesome. Like, that's cool.
And that's my big thing. I have people, I even have I had a stay-at-home mom friend once say that she felt like I would judge her because she's a stay-at-home mom. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I don't think, honestly, being an entrepreneur is really hard. Like, there's just some people, like, I sometimes wish I was programmed to work a 9-to-5 so that, because it's a little, it's kind of nice to have a steady paycheck and to get to clock out at 5:00 and not have to keep thinking about it. But I think the end goal for whoever you are or whatever you're doing is to be happy. So if, working a 9-to-5 with a paycheck that is guaranteed, and being able to clock out and having those vacation hours and sick time and whatever that makes you happy, do that. Being a stay-at-home mom makes you happy, do that. Like, I just think finding that happiness in whatever it is that you're doing is important. And even when I was working at Dairy Queen or serving tables or whatever, like, I still loved those jobs. Like, I still was excited to go in and do those things. So I think there's still ways that, if you're working a normal job, if you will, or a 9-to-5 or whatever, that you can still find jobs that you enjoy doing. So I just think it's about figuring out what that is for you that, obviously makes money, but also you enjoy doing.
Well, and it's mindset, I feel like, too. A lot of it's mindset, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, you being an entrepreneur, the highs and lows of it too, I still feel like that's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. That's what drives you, the highs and lows of it. Describe the highs and lows you've had being the owner of Fabulous Arizona.
Well,
Or
obviously,
just the name Fabulous.
Yeah. I mean, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
But obviously, like being an entrepreneur and having your own business, I mean, when a client is not happy or drops you or whatever, like that feels pretty shitty. And you're like, when you take it, it's hard to not take it personal when it's your own business. Whereas if you're, an employee at a company and something like that happens, it's, not as personal.
Right.
So, everything that happens in the business, you take very personally, which is, learning to kind of separate that. So those can be pretty low. Obviously, financially, the business has not always done very well. So, especially starting out, it was very scary, and that was very difficult, getting through that and figuring out how to make money. I mean, I think about what I used to charge for certain things back in the day, which back then, when you're first starting out, you kind of have to do that to prove yourself and build your, portfolio and all of that sort of thing. But that was incredibly challenging and really stressful, and not knowing, how you're going to pay your bills and stuff some days. Like it was hard. But again, there's also, obviously you have to be realistic. Like, does this have potential to actually make money? If it doesn't, you also have to kind of have a, reality check of like, okay, maybe this is not going to work and you might need to move on to something else. So I believe that there's, a balance there of like, you can believe in your dream and want to like, do it, but you also have to be realistic about like, does this really have potential to make money? And, and from the other businesses that I'd been in prior, I knew the potential that it had and, how to get it there. So that's why I was so confident in the fact that I could get it there. But it was getting through that tough time of getting to that point was really difficult.
For me, I feel like it's the new challenges. If I don't have new challenges, then it's like, what am I doing? I always need something new to do, a new challenge to like conquer.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be just like stuck in a loop. And I feel like that's what drives me.
Yeah.
Well,
and maybe even setting, not necessarily challenges, because you don't necessarily want to always have like something to fix, but setting new goals or, okay, this part's going well now we can go focus on something over here. So as I've built my team, that's allowed me to do that. So it's like, okay, now that Melissa's handing out editorial, I can put more focus into this and start like this other project that I've been putting off that I haven't had time for, or, those kinds of things. So
yeah. And that's what gives you more free time too, though.
Yeah.
At the same time. Speaking of free time, I want to like dive into your doggies.
Yes.
Yeah. your how many do you have?
Well, so I have two, a Bichon and a Papillon, Bentley and Mercedes.
Wait,
and
what? Say that again.
It's a Bichon and a Papillon, so they're little guys. Breeds.
Oh yeah. The little white dogs.
Yeah. And they are gonna be, Bentley's gonna be 13 on November 1st, and Mercedes will be 13 on November 15th. And her and I have the same birthday. So when I met her, I was like, this was meant to be. We were meant to be. So, and I got them when they were puppies, and went to get one dog and walked out with two. And it's so cute because they're so different, but they're best friends because they've been together since they were puppies. But also fostering a dog right now.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Fostering a dog.
Yes. So his name's Brody, and he was a stray found on the street. We're working with this great organization. Since I have a Bichon, I found this Bichon Rescue, and so it's called Bichon for Kids, and they take in Bichon looking or related dogs, like so white fluffy dogs essentially. And so they found this guy Brody on the streets, and he was a stray, and he is just such a sweetheart. But
I saw pictures too, so cute.
Yeah, and he so he's a doll, and he we're hoping to get him all fixed up and ready for his forever home. But I used to foster a lot years ago. And now that I have a home with space to do it again, I'm excited to get back into it. But yeah, I have fostered probably over 20 dogs now. Wow. Used to do like litters of puppies and stuff like that. And I actually have a couple of friends that still have dogs that I fostered that they adopted, and
that's cool.
It's very rewarding to see them get to go.
Do you ever get like too attached to the dogs when you're fostering them? And
people ask that all the time.
I know. I feel like I would.
And you love them, but like in a different way than you love your own dogs. And I think
Yeah.
there is a possibility of being a foster failure and finding one
Yeah.
that just really you have this connection with that you can't let go.
Mm-hmm.
But not every dog. And you know, like in the current situation, you know, Brody's got a lot of energy. He's a lot younger than them. And
How old again?
He's about, they're guessing 4 to 6. Yeah. My dogs
prime.
are seniors. So, so it's a little bit of a, you know, a different dynamic there. And so, you know, long term, it probably wouldn't be a good fit, but it's, you know, so it's like finding him the best, like it's more about what's going to be best for him. And so
Right.
even though I'm like, oh, I love him and I don't want to give him away, it's like what's going to be best for him long term is a home that, you know, they have maybe no other dogs or younger dogs that can, you know, that have more energy and stuff for him.
I saw pictures. He had like fur missing, like his skin was showing. And are you
So
guys...
he has like discolored fur. It's like
okay.
so it looks weird. He looks like half and half almost because like his
Yeah.
entire like his legs and his entire back end are like a pink color almost. And we haven't quite gotten to the bottom of what's going on yet. We're not sure if it's allergies because it can be like saliva can cause that coloring. So if he's licking from having fleas or an allergic reaction because he's very itchy and stuff. He, you know, could be from that. It could be underlying health issues. If they're
any
low
of
on
those
iron
things.
or something that can happen.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get to the bottom of all that. He's got his dental cleaning and his neutering on Sunday.
Oh.
So we are
You're prepping him.
yeah. So hoping to get him a little further diagnosed then on Sunday too while he's in there.
Yeah. Kind of random question, but what do you feed your dogs?
So I do kibble, like it's called, And I Love You, I think is the brand. And it's supposed to be, and we do the grains, which a lot of people think you do grain free for dogs.
No.
And it's,
Well, it depends on the dog.
it depends on the dog, 100%. And I have talked to my vet about dog foods, and I'm always like, what am I supposed to feed them? And I know they have those fresh pet stuff, you know, like the you know, fresh dog food, but I travel with my dogs a lot. So it's, you know, I used to try and travel with that and would try and like do freeze packs and stuff. And then it would go bad and then they'd get sick. And it was just like, it was a disaster. So I was like, I have to keep them on kibble consistently because when we travel, like we have to have something that, you know, their stomachs don't get upset and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what I did start doing, because my Papillon has congestive heart failure. And so he's on limited time with us, unfortunately.
Same with my doggy.
Oh no.
I know, yeah.
What kind of dog do you have?
Chihuahua. Here, I'll show you.
Oh yeah.
I'm all sad now.
And he's probably oh my gosh, what a
yeah.
cutie. How old is he?
Chiquita. So she's
Oh,
13 actually too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So they're
she's
the same
13.
age. And she has congestive heart failure also?
Yeah, so been giving her meds and taking her in for regular checkups. She's due again for a regular checkup to see if she needs more meds.
Yeah.
So got to do that soon.
Well, so we're at about a year and a half since his diagnosis, and which they usually don't expect to live past about a year and a half since diagnosis. And but he has a cardiologist and like 2 other vets, and he takes medications 5 times a day, and he wears diapers and so it's a lot. And so trying to find a dog sitter is quite a production. But he's doing really well and very stable right now. So
That's
you know we're happy about that. But he was not eating. Sorry, back to the food point.
Oh yeah, the food point,
so he was not eating much. This is probably about 4 or 5 months ago, and we took him to the like an urgent care for dogs, which I didn't know they had that. I thought it was either emergency or not. So there was this place that we found as an urgent care, which was great because it's not as expensive as emergency vet, but you can get in the same day.
Yeah.
And the woman was literally like, "I think you might need to put him down within the next couple weeks." And this was back in May. And
I'd be like, fuck that.
Yeah,
no.
and I was just like, "Oh my God, are we really at that point already?" And I was like, you know, because she had him on oxygen while we were there, and it was, you know, looked very dire because he wasn't really eating much at that point. And so I went and got this food, and it was like, it's kind of like cooked fish, but they freeze it. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try and like add this to his kibble and see if he'll start eating that. He loves it and has had such a turnaround since I added that in.
Diet's important for a dog.
It's so important. And I was talking to my vet about dog food, and he was basically like, all the kibbles on the market are kind of all the same. Like, it's really marketing was what it comes down to. Yeah. It's kind of all the same crap. He's like, unless you can actually like cook their food at home or get this like, you know, fresh fish stuff that I'm getting. The kibble's all kind of the same. However, for congestive heart failure, if having grains in the food is very important. So we make sure that our kibble has the grains in it.
See, I did not know that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, so the "And I Love You" brand has one with grain and not.
Yeah.
I hope everybody listening to this is a huge dog lover because
I know
just could
I
talk
am,
about
so
this
I'm
for
enjoying
days.
this. Yeah.
But yeah, so we've been mixing some fish in there, and
Yeah.
I'm like, if anybody needed an update on my dogs, here it
There
is.
you go.
But yeah, so since that, we added that back in May. And it has been night and day with him. Like, he has got so much more energy, and he's doing
That's
great.
awesome.
I mean, we have a stroller. He can't walk as far as he used to.
Aw.
He gets tired very quickly, and has his little cough and everything. But you know, all considering, he's doing very well.
Yeah, my Chihuahua has the cough too. She'll like cough every couple hours, like, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh,
I know.
so
He does the
sad.
same thing. So
We'll cut this in a reel, by the way, so
I know,
people can
just
be
about the
updated
dogs.
on your dogs. Yeah.
yeah.
She's my Chihuahua. She's hanging in there though. Like she's amazing.
Yeah.
Like she's strong.
And I feel like, yeah, they are just so resilient. Dogs are. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, even also looking at these fosters and stuff too, like what they've been through, and they still are just so resilient and loving.
Are you going to continue fostering after this?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
like to. Yeah, my boyfriend wants to get another dog, and I was like, can we just foster instead? Because I'm like, I feel like owning more than 2 dogs is too much. I'm like, if I have 2 hands, one for each dog, and once we get outside of that, it
Yeah.
gets a little chaotic. So I don't mind fostering, but I think for and also like I take owning a dog very seriously. It's a very long-term commitment,
Oh, yeah.
and it's not something I take lightly. So so I just like, you know, want to like make sure that like if I'm going to commit to that, it's a forever thing. And so I'd rather foster and help find, you know, these homeless dogs homes, and
they
help in
deserve
that
it.
way.
They deserve it,
Yeah. I know. I'm like, my dogs are very privileged, and and I'm like, I see these dogs, and I'm just like, oh, like you deserve to be loved like my dogs do.
I know.
So,
I mean, they just rely on you for everything. They're our babies.
yes,
You know?
yes.
Back to fabulous Arizona, or just fabulous. I want to ask you what ties into that. A lot of these restaurants are advertised through you guys.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite spots to eat at?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I mean,
Yeah.
and you like there's different.
Let's choose Arizona first.
Yes, of course, but there's different ones for different reasons, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, like for like a fun night out or special occasion, like Maple and Ash is so fun. Being able to like print, you know, the happy birthday thing or whatever it is that you're celebrating on the menus, I think is such a great touch. So that's kind of one of my favorite, like, and it's just very vibey. I'm, you know, being from the Midwest, I love Chicago, and Maple and Ash is from Chicago. So when you walk in there, it feels very Chicago in there.
Feels authentic.
Yeah. So it's got that vibe.
Never been there.
and
I need to try it out.
I feel like because of what I do, I try so many different restaurants that it's hard for me to have a favorite because I'm like, I love all of them so much. I'm trying to think of some that have opened recently that have been
What about a Mexican food place?
Mexican
think of?
food. I mean, if we're talking like really authentic Mexican food, why is this? I'm drawing a blank on Mexican food right now. This is so bad.
Well, you've been to so many, I'm sure. So
I know. Well, and again, that's the thing. It's like it's because of what I do. It's so rare that I go to the same place more than once because I'm, you know, trying different places all the time.
There's not one that just stands out.
Yeah, I mean. I cannot think of a Mexican place off the top of my head right now. Actually, Crujiente tacos.
Crujiente?
Yeah.
Crujiente tacos.
They are in Arcadia. Hands down, best street tacos. They're amazing.
Arcadia is at.
It's like I think they're on 44th and Camelback somewhere in that area.
Because we're always down to try like new Mexican food places. So
Yeah.
we love Mexican food.
Yeah, I think they do like seasonal. So they have like their, you know, tacos that are always on the menu, but then they always do some like seasonal ones that are rotating. And so it's always fun to try whatever their new ones are.
So I know you're a sports person.
Yes.
How do you feel about the Diamondbacks being in the World Series?
It's very exciting. I actually remember I was working at Dairy Queen when they won in
2001.
In 2001, and I remember we had it on the radio and they won while we were working that night. And so I remember that very vividly. But yeah, I mean, it's so exciting. I personally like baseball's one of my least favorite sports because it's kind of slow.
I can't.
Like
yeah.
I love basketball because it's so fast. I'm a little ADD, so it's like basketball's great.
But
I
we
like
were discussing playoff baseball is
Playoff
pretty
baseball
exciting.
So different. It's
they go
been,
all in.
Yeah, because I'm like, I've actually been like watching play by play of these playoff games, and it's been really exciting. And what I love about the Diamondbacks right now is they have all these rookies and these young guys that are so excited and so talented, and to see like their genuine excitement about like what they're accomplishing is like I love
They're
watching
ready to
it.
win.
Yeah. As opposed to somebody like, Philly, those guys, they kind of had attitudes, and it was kind of like, if they would have won, it would have been, oh, of course we won, whereas these guys are just like genuinely like, oh my God, I cannot believe we're going to the World Series.
And this
like,
is our first time in the World Series since 2001.
Yep. So exciting stuff. I'm always like, I love rooting for the underdog. And so the fact that they've got this great underdog story this year is really exciting.
They had a 0.8 chance of going this far.
It's insane.
When I read that, I was like, wow.
I'm going to be honest. I doubted it. I was like, hey, I love what they're doing in this Philly series, but I really don't think I don't think they're capable of winning it. Because I do think there is a lot to say about, no matter how talented you are, experience plays such a role in these playoff games. Same thing with like watching the Suns or, the Cardinals, knowing like, having that experience of those, critical decisions you have to make quickly in these playoff games. A lot of these rookies don't have that. And so I think that plays a big role. And so I just didn't know if they had enough experience to pull it off. But
well, that's why you have veteran players and like you need a strong coaching staff. Yeah. Ketel Marte, he's a veteran player. I love him on the Diamondbacks. He's amazing. You need to stay longer so you could go to a World Series game here.
I know, right?
Or unless you're in Texas, and then you could watch them there. So
yeah.
I have never been to a World Series game, and
are you going? Are you?
I wish, but the tickets are just so pricey. It's like $500, $600 bucks.
I've heard they've gotten pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, but.
So there's a couple of restaurants. I think I heard Cold Beers and Cheeseburgers has where you can like pay for a table. I don't quote me on this. I just heard this from somebody, but you can like pay for a table where they're technically not inside the stadium or something, and so you don't have to have a ticket to the game, but you can like pay for a table there and see the game from where their restaurant is located. I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So,
I would love to go though. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. But I think even going downtown and like watching it at a bar down there, I think would be really cool because of the energy and the atmosphere.
You're kind of just you're surrounded in the atmosphere.
Yeah, and then post game, all those people are going to be coming, to those bars and stuff. So I think that would be.
That's fun. What we did when we were when the Suns were in the finals. We went downtown and we were just surrounded by the atmosphere, and it was just crazy. Everyone was just vibing it. It was awesome.
The worst is when you lose, though.
I know.
I was at the finals game, the Suns 2 years ago, I think, when they lost, and it was just so depressing.
How do you feel about our team this year? We traded everyone but Booker.
I literally was watching the first game and I was like, who are these people?
I
have to relearn like the whole team. I just love Chris Paul. So I'm just like so sad about that. I get it. But I just like really wanted to see him win his championship with us.
He is on the Warriors, so he could win.
I know. And I part of me was like, that makes no sense with Steph Curry. But I think that the idea there is that those two are probably, one might be injured at some point and they'll be interchangeable.
Well, because of Chris Paul's age, I feel like he's just there to facilitate the ball.
And I feel like him and Steph Curry get injured a lot. So it's like, at least now they're going to be interchangeable. But I just really loved Chris Paul and Booker together. It's just,
their chemistry was just so amazing
together.
So
great.
And now we got Durant, Booker. Their chemistry is pretty decent so far.
Yeah, I think obviously still really great team, and these new guys they brought in are really talented. So I think, this could be our year. I just, personally, I just really wanted to see Chris win with us. It's kind of like when it was, the Nash days. I was a huge fan back then. I went to a lot of those games, and for Nash to not have won a championship with us,
that still hurts me.
I know, and so I wanted that for Chris Paul, and so it's like to see that not happen again. It was just like, oh.
Is it the aspect of him not winning a championship with us, or just in general not winning a championship?
Both. But just Nash being with us and like having to not like he was around the same age as Chris Paul in the sense that like they were at the end of their career and could have won a champion, got so close to winning a championship with us and not getting it. It was just like, ugh,
Yeah, Nash technically has a championship with the Warriors because but what was he? He was like a like a player's coach, like a training coach.
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that.
So,
And he won.
does he actually get a ring with that?
Did he actually get a ring? I mean, he did physically, but
Yeah.
is it the same?
Definitely not the same. No.
Yeah, not the same. No. So, tell us, 2024 is coming up. What are your plans for 2024? For you in general, for your business as a whole, what are your plans for 2024?
Well, kind of like what we were talking about with the idea of potentially selling the business at some point.
Is that coming sooner than later?
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay.
We'll
yeah.
see. I'm just trying to, think, I'm always trying to think ahead and kind of,
Right.
and start planning ahead and that sort of thing. So I also have a marketing agency and, have kind of started whittling away those clients. It's not really a space that I want to stay in. I'd rather be more on the consulting side than actually managing agency accounts. There's a couple accounts that I have that they're family and I will keep them as long as they'll have me because I love them. Over Easy and Francine, they're like amazing.
I've seen a little bit of your
and
posts
I mean,
about-
not only are they like both great restaurants, but the owners are just absolutely amazing people. Like they have become family. I just adore them. Their staff is amazing too, which I think anytime someone has really great staff, it's a reflection of the ownership and the management of like they have attracted really great people there. So just wonderful, wonderful people that I was like, I'll keep them forever. But as I've whittled that away to focus more on the Fabulous brand, it's also had me start thinking of what else, and what's next.
Right.
And so I'm trying to put a little more emphasis and focus on my personal brand. If I want to move into that, consulting role, speaking role type of thing, I will tell you, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I set goals every year.
Yeah.
And for the last like 5 years in a row, my personal website has been on that list and has not gotten done.
Oh, wow.
So the cynthiasassi.com website has never existed. I own it and everything, but
Yeah.
I think I have it redirected to like the about page on Fabulous Arizona or
You're
something.
at the point where you could like just build your name as your own brand.
Yeah. And so I keep putting myself on the back burner. I've built other people's websites and I, work on all these other people's brands, but I've neglected my own. So, so that's something that I'm, big goal and big process. I've already started, really sitting down and doing the work on mapping out what does that look like. I feel like with, me considering, selling the company and stuff, it's like Fabulous Arizona has been my identity for so long. So who is Cynthia, post that. And I think now's the time to start, figuring that out and carving that out. And it's a little bit of an identity crisis, if you will, of like, what do I want to be known for? And, even on my social media, my personal social media has been so neglected because of running the Fabulous accounts and the agency accounts. And, I want to start showing up more consistently there and trying to decide like, what do I want to be known for and what kind of content do I want to be putting out there? And so just really kind of honing in on that is really my focus.
Business aside, I mean, you still want to be really busy even after you sell Fabulous, right? But business aside, do you see yourself like settling down at some point?
I think it's in my blood to be like very busy.
Yeah.
In high school, I worked probably about 30 hours a week. I had band practice before school and then had a full,
band practice. Cool.
Yeah, I was in marching band.
Oh, there you go.
And I actually have my high school reunion tomorrow. So I'll get to see some of those people tomorrow.
Awesome.
But I would have band before school at 6:30 in the morning. And then I'd have a full day of classes. And then I would have cheer practice for several hours after school. And then I would go work at Dairy Queen until 10, 11 at night. So
Damn.
I'm like, that's like, I've just always been like crazy. I like to be busy. That's kind of who I am. I am trying to be better about like just finding more time to like disconnect and slow down a little bit. Obviously our phones, I think, make that incredibly difficult. And being that I live in social media for a living is like makes that really hard. I've gotten really good with the do not disturb feature. And
I haven't used that yet.
Yeah. Like my phone goes on like do not disturb at 8 p.m. every night for like the bedtime mode.
Yeah.
So if anyone even texts me after 8 p.m., like I will respond to you tomorrow. Like I have to like set that boundary for myself.
That's good.
And I've recently gotten back into running. So that's been huge for me because it I can't be on my phone while I'm running. So it's literally the only time that I'm truly disconnected is when I'm out running and can really just shut all of that off.
You have a race coming up, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know when this is airing, but my race is November 5th,
November
in
5th.
Malibu. So a week from Sunday.
Ooh, nice.
So
you've been, training for that a little bit? Or?
Training for 9 months now.
Wow.
So I used to run all the time. I feel like my last race was in 2018. So I feel like people that have, recently followed me or found me don't know that I used to be such an avid runner. And so from 2011 to 2015, I ran probably about 20 half marathons and 4 full marathons. And then I also did a Ragnar and Tough Mudder. Like I was like really deep into it. I was never really fast though. It was more of a social thing. So like, I had decent times, but like my times that I'm hitting now are faster than back when I was running full marathons. So,
Right.
so I've really been, putting in the work and enjoying the process of, getting back to that and working on something that's not like working towards a goal that's not business for once. That's just
That's
for
important.
pure, personal enjoyment, I guess.
I will say you've inspired me to like go running again because I used to run outside
I've
all
had
the time.
a lot of people message me that lately, which now's the time in Arizona to do that. The weather's getting great.
Because it's hot in the summertime. Obviously, it's like 120 degrees out, but right now it's beautiful. It's getting way more beautiful.
I love, and I've done a few posts about this on social media, drawing the connections between running and entrepreneurship, or I mean, really a lot of things in life. There's just so many parallels there, and I think so. I did all that running from 2011 to 2015. I went self-employed in 2015, and I think that the discipline and all the lessons that I learned from training and running races really helped me as a business owner.
Awesome.
Because, you have to be self-disciplined. No one's holding a gun to your head to go do your training runs.
Right,
But if you don't do your training runs, you're going to suck on race day. So same thing as an entrepreneur. You don't have a boss telling you that you have to do X, Y, and Z.
It's all up here for you.
Yeah. You have to motivate yourself to do that in order for your business to be successful. So there's really so many parallels between the two that I love it for that reason.
Yeah, you could be your own biggest supporter or your own biggest enemy at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Real quick, Celsius.
Yes.
You wanted a Celsius drink. You're a brand ambassador for Celsius. You got watermelon. Why?
Watermelon.
Why be a brand? I mean, I love Celsius, but how did you get into this?
So I got a case of them to use on a news segment, and I was like, all right, I've got all this Celsius here at my house. I'll drink it. And I was never really back in the day I used to do Red Bull, but I think, back when Red Bull vodkas were in their prime, really ruined Red Bull for me. And so I wasn't really into energy drinks much after that. And I tried this and I got legitimately addicted. I loved it. So I was like, do you guys have an ambassador program? But I got involved with them 2019, I think. So, I mean, they've really blown up in the last few years. So I was kind of like one of the first with them. And I love it. So the watermelon and the strawberry guava are my favorite.
I was like, I kind of flipped a quarter. I'm like, okay, I do love strawberry, but watermelon flavored drinks are always good too. And
This one I think is one that I've found that almost everyone likes this flavor.
Yeah.
Some people are very strongly opinionated about the flavors. Some people really love them or really hate them. So
you guys like it, right? You guys like this flavor? We are going to end this interview with a cheers.
I love it.
Yeah, we're going to thank you for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Cynthia, it was great to have you. Any last words that you'd like people to know about you?
I always like to end on a good quote. And one of my all-time favorite quotes is work hard and be nice. And I think there's a misconception that you have to be tough and, mean to, make it in business.
Flex
and
your muscles.
I just don't believe in that. I just think being nice and being a good person really goes a long way.
It does, actually. Yeah, as long as you're nice, treat people how you want to be treated, and just inspire others. Yep. Like what Wrecker said, inspire others. Yeah, well, thank you, Cynthia.
Wise young man.
Wise Wrecker, wise beyond our years.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought about this real quick. I thought about this. He's only 8-13, right?
Yeah.
By the time he's 21, we at least are going to be approaching 40.
Yeah.
So he's so young.
It's so crazy.
That's crazy.
Wise beyond his years for sure.
Yeah, he has a whole future ahead of him. But thank you anyways, Cynthia.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
for coming out.
having
I
me.
learned a lot. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.